So another thing you had mentioned was right now, True Colors is going above and beyond their call of duty. But during normal times, what is most of the funding used for in your organization?
So we really focus our work in four different ways. We work at the local, at the state, at the national, at the international levels. And we do that work through four primary focuses. First and foremost is training and education, where we're helping individuals and service providers, whether they be shelters, drop-in centers, housing programs, really understand the unique needs and experiences of LGBTQ youth and youth of color in this country experiencing homelessness, and helping them understand how to create the kind of safe, inclusive, and affirming environments that are necessary to help LGBTQ youth and youth of color be able to first prevent their homelessness, but then if they are experiencing homelessness, be able to make that experience rare, brief, and one time. Secondarily, we do a tremendous amount of advocacy work, where we work here in Washington, D.C., as well as in state capitals across the country, in helping to secure the necessary government funding as well as policies and protections to ensure that we can actually serve all the youth who experience homelessness, and that those services are safe and inclusive and welcoming for all young people experiencing homelessness. And then thirdly, we work with young people who've experienced homelessness themselves to be the leaders we need them to be, because people who've gone through homelessness are the experts of their own experiences more than anybody else. And so for them not to be at the table as part of making the decisions that are actually going to bring an end to this problem, it's essential. And if we don't do that, we're never going to end the problem. So we really work to help young people with lived experience become the leaders we need them to be. And then lastly, we work in communities as a whole to help them create long-term plans and programming to move away from a crisis response system to really a systemic approach to reducing the number and ultimately ending youth homelessness in our country, while making sure that we're centering and addressing systemic racism and addressing anti-LGBTQ efforts in those communities to make sure that we're serving those young people who are most in need, as opposed to ignoring their needs.
I love the part about taking some of the youth who've experienced this and then come out of it to use them as role models now for two reasons. Number one, they'll resonate the most with that population, but also number two, just paying it forward. It's such a wonderful thing to pay it forward because they benefited from those opportunities, and to see what's possible beyond that is a great thing. Yeah. So with demand for services higher during the pandemic, that's what we're seeing across most nonprofits. Is that also true for True Colors United? And how is True Colors United going about increasing its funding during this time? I mean, you really are having a lot on your shoulders with, the social justice issues going on as well politically.
Yeah, so we are working really hard to make sure that the funding is there from the federal government to make sure that communities have the resources that they need to serve young people experiencing homelessness and all people experiencing homelessness. So a great deal of our efforts there have been our government efforts have really been focused on ensuring that happens. In the CARES Act, which was the first kind of major piece of relief legislation passed by Congress in response to COVID, we got $4 billion in funding for communities across the country to help people experiencing homelessness and to help people avoid experiencing homelessness in the first place. The other ways that we've been really working is to make sure that individual programs that work with young people experiencing homelessness don't let equity and inclusion fall by the wayside, because in the midst of a crisis, you're really just focused on the immediate needs of young people needing housing, needing, food, needing, counseling and support. And at that same time, diversity and inclusion can kind of maybe fall by the wayside. And when you're, maybe not receiving as much funding and support that you need, it's even more challenging. So what we've been trying to do is kind of remove those barriers and to help programs work through and ensure that they're continuing to train their staff, that they're continuing to understand, particularly in this elevated crisis, the needs of LGBTQ youth and youth of color. So we provide free trainings and resources and tools to kind of remove that. We've always done that, but we make clear that those resources and tools continue to be free. We're developing new ones in response to the uprisings this summer to white supremacy and against anti-Blackness. We are rolling out new tools around racial equity trainings and so forth, so that programs, we don't want there to be any excuses for why programs and communities are not serving the young people that need their help.